What's going on, guys? ShadowNinja here, and today we have a Warlock build for you guys. I don't really talk about Warlocks. I don't really cover Warlocks. I am a Titan main, if you guys have seen on the channel. So a lot of my builds are around Titans. But with this long wait leading into the final shape, I decided it's time to finally get my Warlock and my Hunter up to par, and that's what we're doing here. And we have a starter build for you guys who could be in the same boat as me. But if you guys are Warlock mains, feel free to comment down below. Give me some guidance, give me some information, teach me the ways of the Warlock, and kind of guide me through this journey. I appreciate stuff like that. But before we continue, let's talk about the build itself. Centered around Threadlings and with a seasonal artifact, it's just absurd. Guys, Strand is one of the most ridiculous subclasses they've ever introduced, and it's kind of going to be sad in my opinion because I'm having so much fun with Strand when it's time to kind of move on to a different subclass. But I do think that that would be healthy for the player base. But there are so many Threadlings, there's so many unraveling stuff, there is so many just amazingness with the Quicksilver Storm exotic auto rifle. Again, this is my favorite exotic in the game and I use it all the time because name a better exotic primary. I'll wait. But yeah, this build is absurd. We'll go over all the details and things like that because it's fun. But let's talk about difficulty level with this build. It's not going to be one of survivability like a solar Warlock build can be with restoration, cure, well of radiance, and things like that. This will certainly be kind of on that let's be aggressive, let's just clear the room out as fast as possible type of deal. And that means that Grandmasters are probably off the table with this build. I will probably guarantee in that higher difficulty scale of PvE content that this build is kind of a death sentence. But I've used this in Warlord's Ruin. This was perfectly fine. It was doable, a little bit of finessing, but at the same time it was pretty durable, especially with some of the artifact mods that can give you woven mail that is important for resistance and things like that. But altogether, this is good in most activities, just not that higher difference of powered activities that are like in a Grandmaster or Master stuff. But with that being said, before we jump into the build, it's important to mention, because I always forget, the dim link is in the description and in the pinned comment for you guys if you're trying to pull this build, use it for yourself and things like that. I should be mentioning that more often in my build videos, but I always forget, and thankfully I remember it this time. But with that being said, let's jump into the game and give you all the details with the build. Alright, so first off, I don't have much transmog, but I think the drip for my Warlock is on the impressive side. I like it a lot. Leave your thoughts if you guys want to insult my drip. But here is what we are rocking with. Our loadout will be the Quicksilver Storm. I think this is the best Strand weapon in the game and the best exotic in the game. Now, the Catalyst does make this Strand, as well as it gives you guys a chance, or at least creates tangles, final blows with grenades. So that's cool. Nano entanglement, good little catalyst perk with that. This is tied to the Lightfall expansion, so if you guys do not have Lightfall, then you will not get this or the weapon. So just keep that in mind if you guys unfortunately do not have Lightfall. And we're also rocking the Eremite and the Apex Predator, two solar weapons. Pretty damn solid. Now, when it comes to the subclass, the main point here will be grapple grenades. The cooldown is on the low side of things, on top of the fact that it has so much great benefits in general compared to shackle and threadling grenades. Aspects, we're going to be using mind spun invocation. Our shackle grenades are enhanced, and in this case your grapple melee spawns 3 threadling eggs when you get that hit, which is pretty nice when we're just doing threadlings everywhere. And then honestly, we're using Weaver's Call. We could switch this to something else, but this is what I've been using for more threadlings. You use your rift, you get 3 threadlings, it casts out, yada yada yada. Pretty good, pretty fine, and I like it a lot. Now, our fragments will be Thread of Evolution. Threadlings travel farther and deal additional damage. Also get a buff of intellect in this one. Thread of Continuity, suspend, unravel, and sever effects applied to targets have increased duration, which is nice with our unraveling stuff. Thread of Warding, picking up an orb of power, grants woven mail. This gives us some semblance of damage resistance. It's not much because I did nerf it, but at the same time, something is better than nothing. And then we're using Thread of Generation. Dealing damage generates grenade energy, which is part of our grapple grenade, yada yada yada. Solid stuff and what I've been using. Now, when it comes to armor mods, we're using a Siphon for solar and whoa, it says stasis. I meant to put Strand. Whoa, that's probably explains a lot with the orb generation I was having the other day. But Ashes to Assets is going to be our main little juice here, and then 2 Siphons with Strand Solar. Ashes to Assets will basically give us bonus super energy on grenade kills, which will be our grappling hook. Our arms, we have bolstering, detonation, momentum transfer, and firepower. 2 of it is grenade based, 1 of it is melee based. When it comes to our chest, this is sometimes the weakest part, but we have 1 reserve for solar, and then we have charge up to extend the amount of armor charges we can have. For our swarmers, this is the exotic of choice. Threadlings spawn from tangles and unraveled targets. This is pretty powerful, pretty good, like it a lot. We have 2 innervations and 1 invigoration. If you guys have any recommendations here of things to change, I'll gladly hear them out. And then when it comes to our bond, we have 1 time dilation, 1 font of restoration, and a bomber mod. Font of restoration because my recovery isn't really there on my warlock as I would like, but altogether this is pretty solid. But we must also mention seasonal artifact. There is some great strand stuff here, especially if you want more unraveling rounds, some more threadling stuff, things like that. So on the horde shuttle stuff, this is a great perk in the final column. Damaging unraveling targets with a weapon occasionally spawns a threadling. This can be oppressive if you tie this with Quicksilver Storm and all the threadlings you're creating with this build. Next to that, unraveling orbs. If you pick up orb of power, it grants strand weapons unraveling rounds. Also pretty damn good. The siphon is pretty important. And then when it comes to our solar stuff, Flint Striker and Kindling Trigger are great choices. It's also important to mention we are rocking rocket launcher stuff, so blast radius to grant armor charges, and then overload rockets for overload champions, god forbid. You can switch off this if you want Dragon's Bite and you're not doing any champion stuff. And then we have a Argent Ordnance for more damage with our rocket launcher, which is pretty wild, to be honest. But that's pretty much the build, what I'm rocking. Now let's jump out and give you guys my closing thoughts. So, as I mentioned before, yes, this is a starter build, so don't rip me for saying this is the worst build ever. This is not even viable. It's fun, it's viable in most cases, just not that end game juicy, difficult scaled case, yada yada yada. But altogether, this is a fun build that is very Threadling based. I am absolutely loving seeing all these Threadlings working. Didn't mention this, but their super with Strand has great synergy with Threadlings. They'll even go to you and surround you and then save, be stored for a later purpose, which is nice. You'll see a Threadling counter, but with all the UI stuff, it's hard to tell when you do have them, but they'll be wrapping around you. You'll see it if you guys look a little bit down. But yeah, it's so much Threadlings. It's ridiculous. It's fun. It's one of my favorite builds ever. This isn't even Warlock based. This is like one of my favorite fun builds ever. And it's going to be hard to put down, but I'm sure you guys will tell me other builds or other exotics I should check out, use, mess around with, and I should probably find a better build than this. But so far, so good. I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. But if you guys have any comments on this build, please leave them down below in the comment section. We can have a conversation about it. Reminder, yes, there is a dim link in the pinned comment and description. So if you guys do want to pull this for an easy grab, be my guest and do yourself a favor. It's way simpler than pausing this video and then getting all the stuff, even though that does help with engagement, but I'd rather save you guys some time. But for more content like this, whether it's Destiny 2, Rainbow Six Siege, or Call of Duty, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell to be notified when I do drop more content. There's going to be a long wait to the final shape, so expect a lot of fun stuff. Hopefully Into the Light and Riven's Wishes stuff is pretty good, but we'll see how things go with that side. But that's pretty much all I got to say on this one. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to drop this video a like. Helps out the video a ton. But until then, hope you guys have a good one. ShadowNinja here, and I'm out.